Rich people believe I create my life. Poor people believe life happens to me. Yeah, yeah, many. I know. Rich people believe that I create my own life. Poor people believe that life happens to me. So what does all that mean? How do you start to master your own destiny and have this mental divide and go towards the wealth mindset and sort of instead of that poor or povertous? Is povertous a word? Let me see. Pervertious? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Pervertious. That's cool. This pervertious mindset. I just created a word. That's actually an Oxford dictionary. All right. So how do you actually figure out a way to master your own destiny and become and go from life happens to me to I create my life? Right. Obviously, like we are a channel that focuses on personal growth and success strategies, right? And so because of that, how the mindset of the rich versus the poor actually influences their life changes everything. And if you truly don't believe that mindset can set you up to not be poor at least, then you're all I need you to definitely listen in. Pull up some of these mental files, all right? But um briefly, the difference between like I create my life and life happens to me. Um I used to feel uh back when I was growing up, like, oh yeah, we're poor, can't change nothing about that. Like, yeah, I go to school and I can learn whatever I learn. Everything is just how it's going to be. I'm going to grow up, not going to really get a good job because like I'm poor now, so I can't learn anything. I can't go to a really good school and pay for it because I'm probably going to get a lot of student loans that I can't pay for, so I won't be able to get a really good job to make more money. Like, life is going to happen to me versus somebody who is wealthier minded. They think the opposite. I am going to create my life. Yeah, I'm poor now, but there are so many things that I can do to learn and to change my life that like I'm going to take action in and take ownership of today. Right? And so what I want to talk about, thanks for the hearts. What I want to talk about is the psychological impact that your belief has on your actions and your decisions. So if you truly believe that life happens to you, you feel like you might be out of control. So there's something called the locus of control, which is internal versus external. And I want to actually pull that up for you guys so that way you can see. Here's the locus of control. It refers to the degree to which an individual feels a sense of agency and regard into his life or her life. Here is a great little picture. Internal versus external locus of control. Internal, believe they're in control and take responsibility for their actions. External, blame external forces for their own circumstances. The locus of control. Where are you placing that control at? Are you placing it within yourself? Are you placing it on everything else? If you're placing it on everything else, it would make sense that you believe that life happens to me because it's never your fault. It's never your responsibility. You had no way of knowing. You couldn't change this, right? It's like I talked about it in the beginning, how life is like this, right? How life is volatile. It goes up and down. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. Shut up. It's going to go up and it's going to go down, right? And so how do you either ride, are you riding that wave? Is it just happening to you? Or are you going to look internal and say, well, the reason why my life is up right now is because of what I did. The reason why my life is down right now is because of what I did or ultimately did not do, right? If you can figure out how to truly actually place your control within yourself, you're going to be able to much better manage actually having good decision-making skills and building on better daily habits, right? Because now you're taking that control for yourself and saying that you're going to shape your life. But the biggest thing is you actually have to truly believe it first, where you actually have to truly believe like that you can create your life. I can tell you and teach you all these different things, but ultimately without like the power of believing that you can shape your own destiny, you won't be able to. You won't be able to. So how do you start to like believe that? Well, let's talk a little bit about, rich people, how they feel like they create the life, poor people, how they feel like life happens to them, and then how do we bridge that gap? All right. So rich people's mindset, they create their own life, right? This mindset allows them to actually take more responsibility for their successes and their failures, right? And it's kind of like I talked about a little bit earlier where I said that you're going to have some successes in life. But if the whole time you felt like you were failing and like everything was out of your control, you will never be able to look back and say, well, I did these things to get me to where I am today. You'll never appreciate the actual success that you had. But the rich people, wealthy or success individuals, they can appreciate, love, and be supportive of themselves and what they did to get to that point of being successful, wealthy, or rich. Right? They're going to actually take full responsibility for the success and for the failures. Right. Another thing that they did, and this is also why I wanted to make sure that our development piece of the day was on goal setting and planning, and also execution, and even more so accountability. Right. Like the reason why is because if they feel like they create their own life, it's because they're setting their goals. They know how to plan on those goals, hold themselves accountable, track everything, keep everything measurable. Right. And then also they have relentless execution towards it. And a big part of it is relentless execution towards creating wealth as well, and towards creating success, right? Like if they know it's going to take this amount of work for them to go from here to there, they're going to do whatever it takes and not stop. Because if they don't, they're allowing life to just hopefully maybe give it to them. Hope that, right? Which isn't going to go isn't going to go that far. You're going to get much further by actually setting your goal, saying, I'm going to do this, and then staying accountable and holding yourself responsible for it as well. And so that way, when you fail, because again, you are going to fail at some point, right? When you fail, you can go back and track and say, well, I didn't do this. And now you can flip it up, right? So rich people, they actually create their life in those ways. Poor people, life happens to me. So let's just say that you are a lot of poor people, like they end up going to like gas station and to like grab a scratch off, right? Hoping that life happens to them, that they'll just magically get rich, right? That's just what they hope, right? And that like maybe I'll just get rich someday. Maybe I'll come across somebody's, a really nice person who gives me all the money that I need to pay off my debt. Like I hope that, come tax return season, like I get a lot of money to be able to buy this next car or whatever. Like they expect life will always happen to them no matter what. Now that might be a huge extreme to say no matter what, but I want to talk about the extremes, right? That locus of control, that left side, that right side, that internal, that external, right? And so with this kind of belief, it could lead to really passive approaches in life, to like challenges and opportunities, right? Where you're not really taking aggressive or effective action. You're not making decisions that ultimately are going to serve for the success. You're letting the opportunity pass you by. You might be look at it thinking, I don't know, I might not do well with it. That might be too much for me, right? Or you have a challenge where, well, here goes the next thing. I could never get out of this bad situation, or I could, right? Like you start to victimize. A lot of times, a lot of these passive approaches creates victims. That's the sad part, right? Having that victim mentality sucks too. I had to learn this back in 2014. That like the most dangerous thing about a person is when they are victimizing and they don't even know it. It's the most dangerous thing because that can start to create so many lapses in motivation and fears of taking actual risks that are ultimately going to help them out in their future. Hi, Mom. Welcome. Right? So having that victim mentality overall isn't going to serve you whatsoever. So how do you start to bridge that gap from life controls me to I control my life? Right? So there are some different types of people that you can like go to and you can read, you can watch. I mean, there's a ton of different content like on YouTube where people are like going from, zero to hero, all that kind of stuff. But I want you to be careful because everybody's always going to be the hero to their own story. Everybody's always going to be the hero to their own story. But also, hopefully at some point, you're going to be the hero to your own story. When you're looking at and comparing yourself to other people, don't compare yourself to them and say, well, they did it. It can happen to me as well. You have to think they took so much responsibility in their life to change it, even if they didn't, right? In their life to change it, I can take responsibility in my life to change mine as well, right? And it goes back to implementing daily habits and implementing your mission that ties right in along with your decisions, right? So some really good steps for developing a stronger, I want to show you this again, a stronger sense of internal locus of control is by setting really good, small, achievable goals. Really, it's the small wins that does so much better, right? Like you're probably going to feel a lot more failure if you try and come out of the gate with some really strong like goals or some really heavy goals, right? That's why we broke it all the way down to daily habits, right? Goal, talk to 5 people, because that's a lot for me, right? That's a lot for somebody who's an introvert. That's a lot for somebody. Well, yeah, but if we break it down, maybe I can read a little bit, text my family, talk to them a little bit more, right? Maybe that will ultimately help you out. But creating those little small achievable goals is going to allow you to start actually taking more routine action. And you get used to it, taking action in your own life that changes how you feel about yourself. Taking action in your own life, even those small achievable steps, starts to give you little wins where maybe, let's say you take the next 2 weeks and you say, hey, for the next 2 weeks, let's say you have an eating disorder. I'm going to eat, a spoon of peanut butter every day for the next 2 weeks. Every day. And because you did that, at the end of those 2 weeks, you can now take responsibility for what you did and for the success that you did. And any failures, you can also take responsibility for that. But regardless, understanding that you're going to have success, you're going to have failures, when creating small achievable goals is going to ultimately help you bridge that gap from life controls me to I can create my own life like I do, right? It's something that I'm learning in therapy now, where I'm working with my therapist, and that situation is actually me with my eating disorder, right? Where for the longest time, I'm like, I have an eating disorder. So yeah, it sucks for me to eat. It's hard for me to eat. It's hard for me to want to eat. It's hard for me to create this because life happens to me. And that's a poor mindset. Or I can say, well, I create my own life. How am I going to implement little small achievable goals, little small achievable daily habits to help me out? Well, I could buy a fat jar of peanut butter and eat at least 1 spoon of peanut butter a day. I can do that. And because of that, I feel so much better. Like, you know what? I can actually do this. Yeah, I might not necessarily have the full belief yet, right? And we talk about having the like believing it. I might not have the full belief that I can actually eat a good meal every day, but I know for sure that I can at least build up to getting there. And that's going to serve me so much better than, well, I haven't eaten this, so I can't eat anything. Small achievable goals. Small achievable goals. All right. But so here's what I want you guys to do. If you realize that you have this victim mindset or this life happens to me mindset, I want you to write down all the things that you believe about the successes and failures that you've had. All right. So I want you to take 5 things, ultimately 5 things, 3 positive, 3 successes, and then 2 failures that you've had, and write down all the different things that you did or that you didn't do or that you were responsible for making that thing successful or fail, right? Start to do that and then reflect on it and see if you can do it again, right? You might be at some point in your life where Maybe you are in a point where you're successful. Think about the three things currently that are making you successful, that are making you wealthy, that are making you do well at your job, your career, in your relationship, whatever the case is. Three things. And then say, well, in my relationship right now is successful in this way. We communicate openly. What did you do to get to that point? Did you have a conversation with your partner that was really vulnerable and hard for you? Did you do write down all the things that you did that led you to that success? And then the same thing with the failing piece, right? Like, well, if you lost your job recently, well, why did you lose your job recently? What did you or did you not do that you can take like actual responsibility of and control of and say, well, you know what? How about I try this? I do this next time. It's going to ultimately help you bridge that gap from poor mindset to rich mindset. So I hope that was a really good tip for you. Another thing that I want to kind of go over, and this is exactly straight from T. Harv's book, not just what has worked well for me and some of the other people that I've worked with. Every time you catch yourself blaming or justifying or complaining about some situation, something, whatever it is, every time you catch yourself blaming, justifying, or complaining about something, slide your finger across your neck, just like this, as like a trigger to remind you that you're slitting your own financial throat. If you're going to complain about work, just do this. You put yourself in that situation. You did. That's your responsibility. You're slitting your own financial throat. Even that gesture itself might feel cruel. It feels cruel to me to do it right in front of you guys, right? But it's no more worse or crude or cruel than what you're actually doing to yourself by allowing yourself to put the blame on somebody else, to justify why this didn't go your way, or to actually complain about things that are actually in your control. And then eventually it'll start to, like, doing this will work to alleviate those habits. And so with that, at the end of each day, write down one thing that goes well and one thing that did not go well. And then actually take this. Here's one thing I want you to do. Write down something that goes well, something that did not go well every day. This is a daily habit that you can implement. And then write the answer to this question. How did I create each of these situations? Every day. That's a really good daily habit for you to just reflect on your day. Write down something that was good, something that was bad, something that went well, something that didn't. How did I create these situations? Now, if other people were involved, ask yourself, well, what was my part in creating each of these situations? Right, so that way you can start to give yourself more accountability in your life. Make yourself more aware of some of the things that are working and not going well for you.